Metro Awakening is out now on PCVR and Quest standalone. Not available on Meta Quest 2, only available on the Meta Quest 3 and 3S, and for good reason. I'll be talking briefly about the plot, just to kind of introduce you to the game, but I will not be going into spoilers regarding the storyline and aspects of the game, chapters into it. Instead, it's going to be more of a comparison between standalone and PCVR. And I can tell you right now, standalone, it's pulling its weight. It's very impressive. And it's not hyperbole for me to say, I honestly think it's the most demanding and yet fluid game I've come across yet in terms of lighting, textures, and performance.
Someone strung up a dead solid.
So Metro Awakening takes place in Mother Russia, post-apocalyptic, 2018, I think. And basically the idea is that radiation has made the surface level uninhabitable and everyone has taken to the underground. Meanwhile, throughout the underground sewers and up top, there are just mutants and monsters, and Sadar, the main protagonist, has to venture into that tunnel system in the darkness to reunite with his missing wife. And that's all I'm giving you for the plot. I'm here for the textures. Let's talk about it. Now, it's funny because when you jump into this game, the first disclaimer you get is, hey, by the way, if you have arachnophobia, which isn't even a real word, but made popular by the movie, if you have a fear of spiders, beware. You may find this game disturbing. And for good reason. Spiders are not the first thing you're going to encounter in this game. More likely, you'll come across this four-legged rat monster that likes to come in and out of the walls, burrowed holes that it'll kind of just burst out of. And it got me the first time, as seen here with this Quest standalone footage.
Holy shit. Oh my god. Wow. Holy shit. Oh my god. Wow.
Later on, you'll encounter spiders, and there are a number of smaller ones that are kind of a signal that the mother spider is somewhere nearby, and she'll kind of maneuver toward you on the ceiling or on the walls.
Spiders?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
It's always in the dark. You gotta have your flashlight handy, keep an eye out. But those little ones, I didn't realize it. Like I saw it and I figured, that's nothing. And then I went to scratch my face and I lifted my hand and there was a spider on my hand and I had to whip it off. Now, I've seen some people comment on this game saying, this is so dumb. Why is everyone praising this game? Standalone looks the same as PCVR, which is just a terrible take. Not because they dumbed down the PCVR version, as was done with Onward and Population 1, which was a crime. That is not what's happening here. PCVR, Metro Awakening, looks fantastic. It's a cliche at this point, but Alex really is the thing by which everything else is judged. Even 6 years later, I think it was 2018, still holds up as the best PCVR game ever made. And I took the time to call it a cliche to get out ahead of all you people who, you know, are sick of hearing about it. And why is everything always about Alex? That's fair. I mean, 6 years later, would have been nice if someone had come along and toppled it, but it hasn't happened. And so it's still the thing by which we measure everything else, not simply because of the storyline, which is engaging, not simply because of the nostalgia, comparing it to versions of the game that had come out as far as like 12 years earlier, but because of how polished it was, how great the textures were, how effective the sound effects were, the kind of detail that they gave us when building that game. And I gotta say, Metro Awakening comes very close to it in terms of atmosphere, textures, and a lot of the same mechanics. Especially in your left hand, if you reach for your hip, pull it up, you'll have a gun that you can inject into your hand to increase health. Alex had the same thing. The difference here is that in this game, it keeps you busy. You've got a backpack that you can grab, and on it you've got gas masks and lighters and all kinds of tools that you've collected up to this point. And part of that is this generator, this handheld thing that you have to wind up and power. And you've got a headlamp that you can flip on, flip off, but it runs out of juice. And so you have to charge that thing every 4 minutes or something like that. And so while you're lost in a dark tunnel, while you've got spiders trying to get you, while you're trying to find your way about, while you might have a gas mask and the filter needs to be changed, you also have to keep in mind, is this light charged?
I'm out of clips.
Many times, even getting into a door, you'll come across a panel where it has no power and you have to pull out that generator, wind it up, plug it up. It's just very involved. It takes a lot just to survive in this game, and more so than Alex. And I'm here for it. I actually really like it. I'm having a great time. The characters are extremely involved. I've heard some people complain, fellow creators even, who said that, yeah, the characters are great, but if you hang around too long, their dialogue repeats. But I'm not here to hang out and, you know, test the characters and see if 10 minutes later they start repeating the dialogue that they're saying to each other. I think that it's very well done. It must have been captured with mocap. The dialogue is fantastic. The voice actors are great. And it really feels very organic.
But since we're running low on poor suckers right now, my lovely voice in your ear will have to do. Stick it to your shoulder like this, voice activated. State of the art, when there was a state of the art. It's almost like living in the future. And for times when my wisdom alone does not suffice.
I've heard they don't do much without those bullets.
You want an empty clip, just to look cool? Be my guest. Go on, smart guy. Take it. Yes, I know. Very pretty.
The textures are great. Across PCVR and Quest, you'll find differences in for instance, the gravel that you're walking on. You'll find differences in fog density and in particle effects. The thing that's most striking, I think, and this is a good example, at some point early on in the game, you're going to come across an open door that's just covered in webs, signifying enter through here and spiders are imminent. And you have to take a lighter and light it, and then it kind of just evaporates and burns up so that you can enter. And PCVR, it looks like this. And Quest Standalone, it looks like this. And that's one small example, but it's representative of like the differences across the board. The textures look good. They're higher detail, higher resolution in PCVR. But what's lacking in Standalone are these particle effects and more elaborate animations. But all that said, when you're in a tunnel and you got your flashlight out and you're listening to the sound effects of creatures crawling through the halls and you're super attentive to everything going on, you'd be hard pressed to notice a difference between PCVR and Standalone. And that shouldn't cause one to say, why is Standalone basically the same as this? That's so unfair. Like I said, it looks amazing in PCVR. The textures, the lighting, the atmosphere is as good as anything from Alex. You can argue over sound effects and creature animations might not be as polished, and perhaps the scope of the world in Alex is larger, but what it looks like, it's Alex. It's everything you could want. And the fact that they're able to get very close to that Standalone just means that A, they've got fantastic developers, but B, this Quest 3 and now the 3S, it's pulling its weight. The fact that it can render this is remarkable. It really looks good. Now, the Quest 3 version that I played was an early beta. The meat of the game is the exact same. But the introductory to the game originally began with this white room where you're introduced to aiming and here's how you load a gun and shoot these bottles and burn this spider web and kind of introducing you. But that was something for creators to experience, or it was something that they had initially planned on releasing and then retroactively decided, no, let's get rid of that and give them the full game. And so that white room, you will not see that in the version that you get. But I felt like, burning those spider webs and seeing that difference was quite representative of the differences between these two platforms. Now, like I said, the creatures, I think it's effective. The lighting complements them a lot. The dark rooms and the burrowed tunnels, just how spry and quick on their feet they are. It's effective. But as I said before, comparing it to Alex, the creatures lack some of that organic, fluid movement that you might want. Maybe they'll improve upon that with, further iterations, but that's one thing that I noticed. It's still great, but it prevents it from being Half-Life Alex. Another issue I had, even PCVR, there are some bugs. There are some hiccups. For instance, there are these, as I mentioned, burrowed tunnels that you can't enter, but these creatures can come out of. And it kind of breaks immersion when you just bend over and look in, as I did here. And you can see just the open world out there. You can see the kind of the broken geometry with it. You're not even like really getting down on your hands and knees, just kind of turning and glancing, and the whole thing is broken. And so that happened a couple of times. That needs some repairing, I guess. Also, in a battle I had where I had an automatic rifle, I just lost audio. I had to bail on it shortly after because it was all about, like, I had to be able to hear people coming down the hallway and whispers, and I was supposed to like stay low and be quiet, specifically to not be seen and to kind of pick up on where they were, and I lost that completely. That wasn't the only time that happened. That happened twice for me. So that is another glitch that I only experienced in PCVR. But look at that. I mean, between the two platforms, I'm 6 hours into the game experimenting with both versions. And that's all I can say. An occasional glitch because I went out of my way to look through a tunnel that I'm not supposed to enter. Some loss of audio. And then just animations aren't as polished as I'd like when it comes to the creatures. But You know, all of that can be improved. Ultimately, this is a beautiful game. It's amazing what they did with standalone Quest. Get the PCVR version if you have the means to do so, because it is better. The higher resolution, the higher textures, it is a noticeable, tangible improvement over Quest standalone. But if all you've got is Quest, you can consider this like a peek into PCVR gameplay, because it is very nearly the same thing. It's wildly impressive. And that's all I got. I mean, I would love to answer your questions. If you have a question about some aspect of this game that I didn't cover here, let me know. I feel like they've got the floating hands. I love the floating hands. Everyone else disagrees with me, but I really enjoy it. I feel like it's a very immersive game. I feel like it's very well done. I'm so happy to have it. It's super exciting that this works on Quest standalone, and I'm excited for you guys to play it. Let me know what you think. You guys have been watching Bringhurst VR. Godspeed.